Friends, fans, and fine folk, grab your drinks and snacks and come on down for the definitely first take of this short rest with the lovely Adam and Ben. There we are. We have both
It's
there.
so wonderful to be here for the first time.
It's so good to have you both here.
This is the very first time I've ever been here.
It's so good.
You,
so
Rob.
good to
I'm
have
so
you
glad
here.
to make my first appearance on stream. I'm literally the only one here who can say that.
Well, it's good to have you here. Thank you very much for coming along. We've got apparently only 25 viewers, which is another Streamlabs artifact, I'm sure. Because I can see because I can see more than 25 people chatting. So thanks, Streamlabs. Kia ora, everybody. So who are these fine folk? For anybody who and I am actually starting to get a few people every so often will come to me and be like, "Oh, who are these Viva guys?" And they'll have found me through my DMing or through my YouTube or through other things. So for the people who have found me through other sources, who are these people on my stream joining me for the short rest? Adam, let's start with you. Who are you?
My name's Adam. No, my name's
Adam. That's all.
You did the introduction.
Adam.
My name's Adam. I'm awesome. My name's Adam. I am a actor, writer, director, and member of Viva La Dirt League. I do funny videos and I stream and I take lots of photos of cats. That's actually a lot. That's a large part of my life at the moment. Actually, now that I think about it.
You go and follow at Adam King Film on Instagram. It's cats. It's cats galore. There's so many cats.
It's like 50% cats, really, in truth, and then like 25% garden and 25% my face.
Well, it's fun. It's always nice to see cute kittens. How many do you actually have now? You have Obi, and then you're fostering others.
We have Obi and Cora, who are our cats.
They're yours, and then you're
they
fostering
are
any more.
They were fosters, but they are foster fails, and they are our cats now. Now we have 8 others. We have a mama and 7 babies. Mama and the beans.
Holy
which is
cow!
a challenge.
That's a lot. How tiny are they? Are they like little wee kittens? Are they newborns?
Like that big? Yeah, they're like 5 weeks old yesterday, I think. So they're very, very, very small.
And who's next to you? Ben, who are you?
I'm Ben.
Tell us more about yourself, you muppet.
Hi, I'm Ben. I am an actor and a writer and an artist and a jiu-jitsu fiend from New Zealand, Aotearoa, and I also work with Viva, obviously.
Viva! So
It's fun getting to troll Rob physically on stream
live
instead of having to troll Rob in
I
chat.
just realized I can say whatever I want and he can't stop me.
I can literally stop you. I've just muted you. I can that's how easy it is. I'm the only one that anybody can hear now, and now you're back. I literally still have the power.
But how quickly can you?
I will hover my mouse over the click to switch off button the entire time with my finger on it, poised and ready.
Good.
So you have to. It's how well you can hide what you're about to say and get it out in one syllable at the beginning.
You should have had us on like a 3-second delay, like the news.
Yeah, like the news. So Ben, where are your cats at? Why do you not put cats on Instagram?
Well, my Instagram is specifically purely for my art. Basically, I've started putting some stuff in the stories of my garden and shit, but it's basically pure art. Because I try and keep my entire Instagram pure art, pretty much. And I follow a couple of friends, but it's mostly artists.
And what sort of art do you do for the people who haven't checked you out on your Instagram yet?
Well, it kind of varies, but these days I do mostly portraits and figure drawings. Really, like I just put one up today.
They're very good. They're getting closer and closer to bloody photorealism every time I see one. I'm like, holy shit. Especially because there's a lot of nudes on there, and I'm like, when is Instagram going to start taking these down? Because they're just getting so realistic, it's basically a nude photo.
Yeah, because it's funny for me because again I follow so many artists. My Instagram is constantly full of nude drawings. Like, so for me it's so normal, but I forget for most people it's probably not.
I don't follow artists, and my Instagram's full of nudes as well. Is that not?
Yeah, right.
Is that not my Instagram
different
feed?
kind of artist.
No, you're thinking of OnlyFans.
Oh right, yeah, that's a different service.
That's a different.
Yeah, that's a different app. Yeah.
So the reason I chose to have you on today is because we're out of episodes. Just as a final tie-up for anyone who happens to be watching this later, because I'll likely be putting it on my YouTube, and maybe years down the line people are going back and watching it. The bit of context for where we're at is I'm the dungeon master for you guys over on the Viva La Dirt League D&D channel, and we usually film in blocks. We film like a table session of several hours. And then we chop it into lots of half-hour chunks for the D&D channel on YouTube, and then we, by the time that's starting to run out, we filmed the next session and we do it again. But we're currently, as of late 2021, we're in a New Zealand lockdown, and we haven't had the chance to film, so we've run out of episodes.
The last time we filmed was in July.
And it is now November.
Time is a flat circle and meaningless to me. Like, July feels like March, feels like 1982.
Genuinely.
Feels
It's so long and short of a time since the early 2020. It feels like everything of lockdown has just kind of been this year, and it's been 2 years just blended together.
It really has.
That's so weird.
So if we've run out of episodes, then that means that the people watching it are actually up to date with you guys playing it for once, for the first time ever.
For the first time ever, yeah.
For the first time ever.
Yeah, true.
So
you know the exact same amount as Ben and I do, if not more.
Yeah, because you guys watching might have actually gone back and rewatched things and watched it more recently, especially more than Ben.
Discussed it with people and things.
Yeah. So let me start with asking you about your experiences with D&D. Like, what are you? What's your experiences with D&D outside of me, Adam?
Not a lot. Like, before playing D&D with Viva, I had done not actually official Dungeons and Dragons, but other role-playing tabletop games.
Do you remember which ones?
No, I couldn't tell you.
Like
I think one of them was called Monsters and something.
Monster of the Week, maybe.
I think that's what it may have been. But only like 3 or 4 times, like 3 or 4 sessions, I think, and didn't super get into it. So yeah, and apart from like knowing that it was a thing, and actually no, I give myself a little bit more credit. I have played the hell out of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, like a lot of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
That is a straight up D&D video game.
In terms of actual tabletop play, yeah, very, very, very little.
How about since we started playing though, because you had a session with Dragon Friends. That's what.
Then that is the literal only
other time that you've played. You've never bothered to crack out some dice when you. I mean, you've got a lot of merchandise now that we've been doing this channel for a while. We get sent a lot of dice and all kinds of stuff. You've never been tempted when friends came over to crack them out.
All of my dice. I need to go digging for my other dice, but I mean, yes, I want to. I would like to get into a regular weekly scheduled D&D game with friends, but there's 2 things. One, I don't have the time.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't have the time in my life at the moment. And 2, this is going to be an ego boost for you, Rob. I don't think I'd want anyone else to DM me apart from you.
Stop.
Yeah,
you need to DM. You need to DM yourself. You need to be the DM. Would you ever do it?
I think I'd be a good enough DM. Yeah, I think I'd like to give it a crack.
Yeah, it's. I think any one of us of the Viva D&D lot would make a good DM, but they'd be very different stories, I reckon, and they'd be very different types of DM. I think even Rowan would make a good DM. He would just be the type of DM that is like improvise everything, and when you come up with needing a rule, it's just like, oh, we'll just rule it like this for now and move on.
I imagine he would DM like Greg Davies rules over Taskmaster.
Yeah.
I said this to Jen the other day. I was like, the New Zealand host of Taskmaster, which most of you won't know the name of, Jeremy Wells. He's a fine broadcaster, but he is a terrible host of Taskmaster. I think Rowan would be a great Taskmaster host.
I actually agree.
Fantastic
I hadn't thought about that
He
before,
would
but that
he would
be
have
great.
the energy of Greg Davies on Taskmaster, on New Zealand Taskmaster.
He
They need
legitimately would.
they need a fucking
Hey,
boot.
yeah.
They need a boot Jeremy Wells and get Ron on Taskmaster.
That's actually a fucking great call.
Start a petition.
Like I've watched
first.
both seasons of the Kiwi Taskmaster, and actually he's grown on me. He's very different to Greg Davies, but him and Paul. Is it
Paul, yeah,
Yeah,
Paul
Paul
Williams.
Williams.
Yeah, him and Paul's relationship is very different. It's a very different relationship, and I
Yeah.
kind of like it too. Like it's kind of becoming its own.
It's not that
thing.
sort of jokey antagonistic one of.
No, they're kind of like they are more of a team
Yeah.
than Greg and what's his face?
Yeah.
So back to D&D, Ben. What was your experience with D&D before me?
Every single time I've played D&D, I've had a camera on me.
So you can literally see every instance of your
Yeah.
your D&D at some point.
Yeah, the first episode of like NPC D&D on the main channel, that's the very first time I ever played D&D.
Like episode 1 of this current ongoing campaign as Bob.
Yes.
That was the first time.
Yeah. Like some of the fans would have seen the isolation games first, but that actually came in chronologically in my life. That came after
Because of
we
the delightful
recorded the
lockdown.
first session, and then the first lockdown got in the
Oh
way.
my god, this D&D campaign is most certainly themed by lockdown.
Yes,
And
it really
talking
is.
about time, that feels like 5 years ago,
Yeah.
not 18
Yeah.
months ago. Like, legitimately feels like.
Well, no, it was about. Wait, we filmed it in March. I don't fucking remember.
We
where
filmed
March
the very
2020, right?
very
we film it in
first.
March, didn't we?
We filmed in February or
we
March.
must
Yeah.
have done. Yeah, we
And it
must
was-
have done
and
because
because the
we
green
couldn't
screen
get
was-
the green screen out.
The
Yeah.
green screen was meant to be shot on the Wednesday that we went into lockdown. The very first day of
That's
New Zealand lockdown, the very first time. And so it was like literally couldn't have been closer. If the lockdown had started one day later, we'd have probably had green
Yeah.
screen and then the episodes
Right.
would have started.
Yep, that's right.
Such is. And then you've played D&D outside of me, Ben? You ever had another DM? You played with me as
I
a
had that
player.
one game, and you were still in the game.
And I was in the game. So you've never played D&D without my presence.
No. I've never done it without you holding my hand.
So you actually both have experience there of D&D in person with me, and then D&D online with somebody else DMing. And
Yes.
tell us what your views are of the two different types of, because with lockdown I can still theoretically DM for people online and things. In my home games, I've had people been like, "We're really missing it. We would rather do online than not at all." And I've had to move my home games online, which I really hate, but it is how it is. It's better than nothing. Yeah. What do you guys think? Better than nothing or not at all?
I've talked about this quite a lot on stream recently, and I think for the chaotic energy and improvisational style that we have, at least for NPC D&D, it just works so much better in real life. There's something about being on a call like this with, I know it's not much of a delay, but a minute delay and having to talk over each other on call, it doesn't quite allow for that same chaotic improvisational energy that we have at the table.
Yeah.
I've actually been giving this a lot of thought because I got an audition offer, but because I'm on complete lockdown, I'd have to do the audition, like even a self tape, because I'm not doing it with Haley because that's a nightmare. Because she hates it and I hate it. It's just awful. But so I'd have to, even recording it on my phone or something, I'd have to be doing it with someone over Skype or Zoom or whatever. And I hate acting over Zoom. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, because I've always hated it, and it's because of that delay. And like me and Adam and the other guys were playing some games the other night, and we even did the little experiment of trying to sing Happy Birthday over a call, and you literally can't do it. Like, you cannot do it.
We tried to time up Happy Birthday, and it was impossible to do.
Even
we even
been
tried
like
to
3,
count,
2,
going Yeah, even trying to count, because even if I went like 1, 2, 3, and everyone tries
4.
to count with me, you just can't do it.
Can't sync up.
You can't sync up.
I want to demonstrate that now. I want you to start
Okay.
counting, and I'll jump in.
Okay. 1, 2,
3,
3,
4, 5, 6,
6.
7.
Sorry.
yeah.
Oh god, that's so
Oh god. Oh, it's awful. It's awful. And so I realized today I was trying to because I basically turned down the audition because I was like, originally I was like, yes, I can do it, but I'll only do it when I'm out of lockdown and I can film it in person with someone. And now I'm never getting out of lockdown.
never ever.
Never. This is my life forever. And I was trying to come up with a way to describe why it's so bad. And it's the music. Like, the thing I love about acting is that connection that you have. And D&D plays into this because the thing I enjoy about D&D is, yes, I enjoy the character RPG aspects of it. But because I mean, the only D&D I've played is the Viva guys, so it's comedy D&D basically, and I really enjoy that kind of improv nature and the kind of character work and the acting. Really, I mean, that's what I like to do.
Yeah. I feel like I would like it over Zoom, as you say, Ben, if I was playing just for the RPG. If it was more battles and more fighting and less of the role play stuff, I'd probably like it over
Yeah,
Zoom.
exactly. And obviously, if I really, really loved D&D, like D&D was my jam, and Zoom or online was the only option, then yeah, I'd probably do it. I'd probably do it if it was literally my only option.
Yeah, and it is good that
like
people,
it for those reasons.
it's good that people in different countries that like want to play together obviously have the option of doing so, with all the virtual tabletops and things. And I think the future of online D&D will be a lot less irksome, because there will be. I mean, we'll always have that barrier of certain, like, one of the things I really hate about it is that around a table, I could be, for instance, having like a one-on-one discussion with Alan, and I'm having like a scene with him, and the other three of you can still really be talking, and especially if you're on the set, like you two could like turn to each other and say like something under your breath, but it's not distracting from this. But on a situation where you've got one mic and everybody's getting the same audio, you can't have a side conversation. The person talking is the person, and that's the person everybody hears, and that's the thing I hate. So like for D&D online to get better, I think it needs some more of that. I can imagine it going into like a virtual reality situation. Everybody has the VR, and you are like sitting around headsets and around a table and things, and then you can literally
have, like,
move.
Proximity audio,
and you've got proximity audio. Proximity audio, things like that might help. Yeah, directional audio, all that sort of thing might help. But I think like the lack of table minis and map and stuff like that, tactile stuff, that's all going to go away. Like, you're not going to miss that stuff as much as virtual stuff gets better. There's already programs that do like 3-dimensional minis and props and stuff that are easy enough to pick up and move. So that sort of element of it's good, but you're still going to miss out on that just feeding off of each other's energy.
I feel for NPC D&D at the very least, there's something else very special about sitting in that room at that table with other people there, knowing there's cameras on you.
Yeah.
And either being in the moment in character and doing that improv, bouncing off each other, or while other people are doing stuff, just kind of looking at your notes and thinking about what you're going to do next.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're here and, as you said, there's just voices in your head and you're just kind of sitting there being like, like it's the exact same thing as rehearsing a scene for a film and then putting the costume on and being like, oh, I am the character now.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. That's a good analogy.
Yeah, there's definitely a part of that. And like all that stuff I said before is true. I think it's more of an issue for me with just straight up acting, because that is pure, like when you're doing a scene, that is pure musicality. Like, whereas D&D, as you say, there is much more, the battles and stuff, it's all fine, and so it works better online, but it does always have that kind of hindrance, basically.
Yeah. What do you like most about, like, we've touched a little on it, but in-person D&D, what do you actually enjoy about D&D? What's the thing? Because Ben, you've previously said that like the D&D stuff is one of your favorite things to do with Viva. Like they're some of the most fun days that you have. Like, what is it about it that you actually enjoy?
Well, it's because it's kind of funny, because you say, what do I enjoy about D&D? But as we've established, D&D for me is a very specific, very narrow thing. Like, D&D for me is sitting at that table with Adam, Ellen, and Rowan playing these characters with you DMing.
What do you enjoy about your D&D experience? Yeah, that is that is what D&D is to you.
Yeah, totally. I guess I'm prefacing this saying that it's a very specific experience of D&D. Because there's also 5 cameras on us and Tom and Al, like
other people reacting, and you've got somewhat of like an audience that's had like usually they've got the applause for like sitcoms and stuff. There's the opposite. Yeah. It's like stay quiet. They've got silence, and so sometimes it is quite fun to like something completely unexpected happens and Tom the camera guy like goes
yeah, exactly.
And you're like,
if you guys ever see us look off that way, for in the frame, it would be looking out that way. That is us looking at Tom, who's probably just laughed at something.
Yeah, exactly.
Not only laughed, but he picks up on stuff as well. Like there's been a couple of times when we'll go to lunch and he'll come up to me privately and go, "Did you said so and so, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "None of them picked up on it." And I was like, "No." And he goes, "All right."
Well, it's like when you were fucking Gareth Goldhorn, and Ben and I couldn't see this because you were twitching on Alan. Your eye was twitching on Alan's side, and so Ben and I had no idea you were twitching, but Tom had his close-up camera on your face. And said that, it was fucking obvious that Rob was twitching the entire time through the thing. We couldn't see it.
And it's also a real thing.
Where you just get one for online D&D. You'd have seen it.
Yeah, true. But you also with D&D, like there are times when you'll be talking to Alan or something, and I know my turn's coming up next, so I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe if I do this, and what's he gonna do? Like, and then it comes. So you could be divulging all sorts of shit to Alan, and I'm just like, wee. Like just thinking about what I'm gonna do.
Just white noise.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the thing I like most, apart from just the acting and the improv, and just like I just always enjoy acting with the guys. That's always fun. But I think what I enjoy the most about D&D is the storytelling of the dice, and how it's like we're chaotic at the best of times anyway. But then sometimes the dice just gives you a roll and you're like, oh okay. Like when Greg tied that knot and it's like, oh, that's a real shit knot.
That's real shit knot. And it's like, it's always, I tried to hide death behind a number of walls. Like it's not it's not save or suck. Like one person casts a spell at you and if you fail you save, you're dead. Like I try not to do that because my style of DMing is more narrative and I don't want to just have to re-roll one of the characters. And background, I've tied all of your backgrounds and your stories into the entire plot, like what happens. So if one of you completely just gone, now I'm like, oh fuck, this sort of big reveal bad guy that actually means something to that particular character, I'll have to rework.
So someone jumping off an airship is not useful to your plan.
And so things like the rope across the chasm was like, all right, you had to go through the entire process of getting everybody across, and then you had to put one rope across and turn it into a plank. A plank of rope. And then you had to tie a knot and fail. And then he did an investigation on the knot and failed that, so he didn't even know that it was a bad knot. and then he had to fall off.
We were trying to like double check with him, like really.
Hey Greg, maybe you have
what is that knot? No, it's a great knot. Yeah, so I tried to hide things behind, and then jumping off an airship, I tried to hide it behind, like, you're not just going to splat because you're, hundreds, thousands of feet up. So there was like, you have time to get caught. But it was the last roll, and if the dice had decided, budget's dead.
We were playing a game the other day, me and the guys, and Rowan plays games like he plays D&D as well. Like we're on top of a tall building, and Rowan just like jumped off and fell to his death.
Here we are fighting a zombie horde, and Rowan wants to know if the game is accounted for jumping off the building. So he jumps off the building. And guess what? He died. And we didn't have a fourth player for the rest of that level.
Oh god, I laughed so much.
And then it happened like the next week or the week after that. He wanted to know what the water physics of Back for Blood were, so he jumped in the ocean and died.
There's if only there was like some sort of rules manual of the game, but there's not. There's nothing that would have told him. There's nothing that would have told him what happens if he jumps in the water, so he's got to just try it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think the storytelling of the dice is probably my favorite part because that includes the anticipation of the dice.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and sometimes getting that nat 20 or whatever, or that nat 1 in my case, like that adds just so much, and that's the kind of shit like you can't write this shit. Like that's why I've always thought a D&D campaign, like filmed as just a straight narrative. But based completely off the dice rolls, would make a hilarious fucking show.
It really would.
So playing it out at a table and then like after the fact writing up what happened and turning that into a script. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It would make it an
when
unpredictable
that barbarian
storyline. Yeah.
rolls a natural 1 on his spear throw, he really does fuck it up. Like,
yeah, I find the same thing. Like, there's been numerous times when the story direction is completely anticipated by or directed by the dice. Frank is a great example because Frank was in my mind when I was preparing for that session. He was a badass assassin that lulled you into false sense of security by being old, and he was like, "Oh, I'm just a doddery old man. Follow me down this way to find my daughter. I'm lost, and I've gotten turned around." And then he gets you on your own, and he goes, "Shing!" Wah! And he turns around and slashes your head off. And because the rolls were just garbage, and I think I gave him advantage or something, and it was just garbage roll, and he went, "Oh no." And you just didn't even hit your armor class, and you have an armor class of 10 or something, so it was just absolute. Yeah. And so at that point the dice have told me, no, this guy's not a good assassin. He's just an old man that took the job because he really needs the money. And it just completely changes direction of certain characters and things, and especially when it comes down to character death or all that sort of thing, it can really change the direction of a story, which is why I like it, because if you put too much, if it's just storytelling without dice, without random element, randomizable, it's too much pressure on all of us, but especially the GM, to come up with a good story and to make it compelling and to make it unpredictable and to make it. Whereas I can prep like just one chapter of the story. I can put bones down for the full story, as it were, but I can only put flesh on the next chapter because the dice are going to decide for me what the hell happens after that.
Yeah, you just kind of trust the chaos to a certain extent.
Speaking of, what do you guys? What's your opinion of the concept of plot armor for characters?
It's such a hard one, because we were talking about this the other day, me, Alan, and Rowan, being like, we've said everything that happens in NPC D&D is canon until someone dies, and then it's not canon. Because it's like, these are four characters that are set up in Epic NPC, man. We can't have them die.
Yeah.
But then on the other side of the coin, which Rowan says all the time, is like he wants stakes. He wants the ability for us to die. And I kind of agree with him on that. Like, I want to go into an engagement or a fight or whatever and go, if we fuck it up, one of us isn't, or multiple of us aren't coming out of this.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
I think I always want the threat of death. Like, I want that to be a real threat. But I don't think I'm interested in like gritty realism. Like, so I guess in some sense I'm after a little bit of plot armor just to recognize, fuck it, you're an adventurer. Like, it's hand wave some shit, stuff. So you can just get away with some shit and be a bit stronger than you normally would or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I still want, because I agree with Rowan or whatever, that without threat of consequences, then what's the point in some ways? I mean, I guess if you're just into it for the story, but for me, if I just wanted story, I'd go to something else. I'm not in D&D purely for story. I'm here for story and to play the fucking game. And
it's one of the things that I thought about recently, that like it's a very unique form of storytelling, because the writers are the actors, are the storytellers, and the audience. Like in a regular game of D&D, for us, we've actually got an audience. But for a regular home game of D&D, the way that 99% of the world plays D&D, you are the writers and the storytellers and the audience for it. You're telling your own story as you go in, and you have to. That's why a lot of people say the main focus of D&D is that you're having fun. As long as you're
See,
all enjoying
that's
stuff.
that's one of those wrinkles of D&D that like my specific experience of D&D is very different in that regard. Like I always know I have an audience.
Although, correct me if I'm wrong, and this is one of the things I love about our game as well, is I don't think we're necessarily consciously doing anything at that table for the audience. We're doing it for ourselves, to make ourselves laugh.
Yeah.
I would be
Say
willing
that.
to say that most of the things that go through our minds and come out of our mouths is to make ourselves laugh, is to have fun at the table.
Usually the things that go
Sure.
through your minds come out your mouths. Let's be honest. They're the
Not
same.
always.
The
not
Venn,
always.
the Venn
There's
diagram
things
is
that have
very
gone through my
close to
mind
just
and not
being
come out
one
my
circle.
Yeah,
The
it's
Venn
got to be
diagram.
pretty bad for me to bite my tongue. But there are times when I do manage to shut the trap before it gets out. And I'm like, whoa, that was
shouldn't say
fucking
that.
close. Whoa, that was close. Yeah, I think generally I think I agree with you, Adam. I think it would be just as I think it would be more chaotic if the cameras weren't on. But the audience being there is still an intrinsic part of the experience of D&D for me.
Of
And knowing that we're going to film it at the green screen and all of that, even it does just by its nature influence, even if in like a cyclical way, it influences what happens at the table and vice versa. And so it just does have an impact on the game, you know. Like just then, as you said, like the audience, like people playing are the audience. I was about to go, well, not really the audience are the audience. I mean, come on, Rob. Like, and I was like,
For
oh,
us.
most people would not have an audience.
Most people play it, and they're the only
Most
ones that
people-
ever hear. And
Yeah, they're not really performing D&D.
And it's
I
why
gue- I
there's-
mean, they are. But yeah.
it's why there's huge subreddits and things for people to just be like, oh, I need to tell somebody about this story that just happened in
Yes,
D&D and how epic it
of course.
was and how we rolled 4 nat ones in a row and or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you need to tell somebody because you got nobody to tell about it.
I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy watching the show. Is I think it's just genuinely funny and I like watching it, but I also get to relive some of those hilarious moments that happen. Like lock it.
Lock it.
Well, that was dice too. That was dice.
That was dice because I said roll a
And you got
charisma
shit
check or
charisma
whatever.
roll.
How do you
lock
press the matter?
I think I would be kind of gutted if I had something happen in a home game that I couldn't share with anyone by showing them a video of it.
Yeah.
One of the toughest things about being a DM is that often you've got such cool ideas or something that's really cinematic in your head or something that you're like expecting to play out a certain way and it's really tasty because your players like here's the thing that's been simmering underneath the surface the whole way, the sort of deep plot that they've been picking up breadcrumbs, and then they go in straight for it and you're like, yes, we're finally gonna get, and then they go, ooh, and you're like, oh, they're gonna look back at this moment and they're gonna realize just how close they came to uncovering the true plot of the entire story, blah blah blah, all this stuff. And of course, you can't share it with your players, who most often are the people that you would want to share it with, because people are usually playing with their
No
friends.
one else cares.
They've got their friend circle, and those are the people they're playing D&D with. And you're like, oh, can I tell anybody about this story or this weird cool thing that happened that I can't give away to my players yet?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And of course, yeah. Now I've got a situation on a YouTube channel wide setting of that, where there's now comments being like, "Ooh, what's happening here?" And I'm like, "Oh, there's so much I want to talk about."
The only one that knows.
I'll get there. Thankfully, I love keeping secrets. It makes me feel superior to know things that you guys don't.
It's kind of like, because I imagine there are a lot of people who love that about D&D too. It's kind of like the whole theater thing. Like there's a lot of people who love theater because it happens in the moment and then it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, and they love just having that secret they love having a secret, basically.
Yeah.
They love having that experience, you know. And so I imagine D&D is the same for some people. But I'm really glad that it gets all recorded and blah, blah, blah.
On the I've been listening to some D&D podcasts recently, and there was like an interesting debate about people who... Yeah, I know, right? It's almost like I do this for a living, and it's part of my job to actually consume material about it. Okay, nerd. Professional dungeon master. There they were having a debate about like whether or not to actually even call it a story and storytelling and stuff, and whether it is even just a completely different medium. And it sort of devolved into a discussion of railroading versus sandboxing. Are those terms? I've used those terms around you before, but I'm not sure if you're fully familiar with what they mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your take on like that sort of scale, that sliding scale of railroading you into follow the story?
We've never really had a true sandbox. I consider our games to be pretty railroaded for the most part. Well, the main thing of what we're going is railroaded, and then you have little sandbox moments for us.
Essentially, each train station is a sandbox, but you're on a rail.
Exactly.
I get you to a train. I get you to a station, and then I'm like, all right, do your thing a bit, and then everybody back on this train. Everybody, come on. Heard you back onto the train.
I'm sure you'd be perfectly fine in one of us deciding to just literally be like, "Nah, I'm laying tracks over here," and you'd probably deal with it absolutely fine. But I don't know if the other three would be.
Here's what would happen.
The story at large would be.
Here's what would happen. The main train track is here, and one of us is like, "I'm laying tracks over here," and Rob's like, "Yes, you are."
Good boy.
Here
we go. Yeah. There you go. Look
all the way around and back here.
There's a cool image that I saw once.
What if you were like, Ben? What if you were like, "No, fuck the stuff that we're doing in the swamp. We're going back to the Dirt League, and I wanna track down my brother."
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like that would be tens of episodes of railroad track off before we got back to the main one.
Oh yeah, But the thing about how I like to DM is that the stuff in the swamp would still carry on. It would still be doing its thing while you're doing this other thing. Unlike a video.
I can't wait to get back to Honeywood.
Honeywood is. I was looking into it just the other day. I was looking into it just the other day. I like look
corpse covered shop
because I went into the actual timeline. I've got like it day by day what you've been doing and how long it's been, and it's been 69 days in game as well as 69 episodes, which is an interesting coincidence.
Classic.
And you killed the assassins in Greg's shop on day 10. Like nearly
50
60
days of decomposing. 59 days of decomposing.
It might actually be past the smell now.
Past the smell.
Have you looked that up, Rob?
I have.
It's probably not a safe thing to search without the FBI knocking on your door.
The FBI, if they looked at my search, they've just got. There's a meme of it. It's like searching for something, and the FBI comes over his shoulder, and then he adds 5e on the end, which is shot for 5th edition, and it's usually how people are like, how to dispose of a corpse. 5e.
5e.
And then the FBI guy walks away. Yeah, I could easily search for some actual ways to like get rid of a body in real life, and then just pass it off as being like, oh yeah, no, that does look weird, but look at all this other stuff that I searched for. What was I saying? So yeah, the railroady thing that I've seen an image of that does it really well. It's like dungeon entrance here, and then like corridor, and then like a room here, and then like on each end of those rooms, the corridors just go around to the next room, and it's like doesn't matter which they go in. You're gonna go to the room that you've given them.
I feel like I would really like a sandboxy game. But my personality would be, I would most certainly lead the charge, and I don't know if other people would enjoy that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Like, I would be the one playing in the sandbox and forcing other people to play in the sandbox with me. And I know that that's not enjoyable for other people.
It can be.
Let's look at the sandbox that I can take you through.
Yeah.
It's a sandbox. We can literally do anything, so we should do this thing over here.
You just described Rob. Right, like that's how Rob's playing this game. Like, look at this big sandbox that you guys have given me that I can just railroad you through.
Adam brings his train tracks, puts them under the sand, and he's like, "Come guys, come play in the sandbox with me." I do. I mean,
that part of me would that. But having said that, I've never played with other people that aren't Ben, Ron, and Alan who would also act like that, and I would have to then fight against in the sandbox. So I don't know.
That's the.
I think I kind of like being railroaded in some ways. Like I like the way you do it, and it almost. And I don't know if this is intentional because it's in a video game world as well, but it really does feel like I'm looking at a video game map in my head. Like, especially when we were in the deep frost, because we were literally going town to town to town. But it would feel like it was like town with a and then beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beep, 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 beep. Like,
And especially in the Dead Frost, it did feel like that.
So,
as you said, like a railroad with a sandbox at each station.
Yeah, it was basically like just levels almost. You get to the fucking this city level and then that city level, the rimming level and the blah 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 in Scotland and blah blah blah. But what you mentioned before about whether it's storytelling or not, it's something I was talking about on stream the other day that I found really interesting too. Have you guys heard the idea of the strengths of the three main kind of storytelling devices of novel versus film versus theatre, and the kind of strengths of each in regards to a character? So basically, the way I heard it described was a novel's strength is showing a character in conflict with himself, because you can show the inner monologue.
Yeah.
Theatre's strength is showing characters in conflict with each other, because you can have two people on stage at once and talking to each other. And film's strength is showing a character in conflict with their world, because you can place them in the world, you know, you can really place them in physical environments. But then, and I was talking about how video games is kind of a new one, and D&D is very, very similar to video games in that sense, in that D&D is more story focused, whereas video games are more gameplay focused, although that's starting to shift a lot depending on the game as well.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how there's now really interactive story, and I don't know what the strength of that is. Like, I don't know. There might be one. I and someone might have worked it out, or someone might have illustrated it. I don't know, but it is interesting to think how being the active protagonist in that story, how that changes it and what the strength of that is.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that before. I feel like it leans into that same film world where it's the character against the world generally, especially in something like an RPG.
Yeah, but I guess it depends on how you design it too. Because with D&D, it could definitely be character versus character, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's an interesting one for sure, because I'm trying to think of the three other ones, the novel and the theatre and the movie, which is D&D least like. And I was like, well, maybe novel, like the internal struggle, but I have a lot of people in my home games that like it's all about their own character progression through overcoming daddy issues or whatever, the like their background stuff. They'll be like, I'm on the search for this thing, and every session is about like them trying to work their own character through it.
And I mean, the DM, like, you quite often provide us with thoughts almost via dreams and things, or you'll go, you're feeling such and such, so or like Bob's thing with the fucking old one, you know, like there is a lot of that internal stuff. And just as a by the by, that's kind of why a lot of the time adaptations don't work, because a story works really well as a book, because it has a strength where it's about the inner monologue, and translating that to a film, it doesn't work, or vice versa. And on a rare occasion, it might work better, but that might be because it was in the wrong medium. It was in the wrong medium.
It deserved to be a TV show. Or whatever.
Yeah, so it's something I think about a lot, and I still don't quite know, and maybe video games still, and D&D perhaps too, still don't quite know what the strength of the story is. Or maybe it's just way more flexible, and it doesn't matter as much because you got the gameplay as well. It's not just storytelling, so it's not as important. Maybe, I don't know.
On the topic of the railroad sandboxy situation, because you guys, when we first started this channel and first started playing D&D, you guys specifically asked for a railroady kind of campaign, because Rowan in particular he just gets choice paralysis if he doesn't have a call to action,
and if he doesn't have an exact goal,
if he does not have a quest in his journal of this is the quest you need to do.
Fucking do the quest. That quest better be air fucking tight, mate.
Even the quest to like go and check out the iceberg where people are not coming back from. He got to the iceberg and went, but why? But why are we not here? But why are we not here? But why are we here? We're investigating to see why people aren't coming back. Yeah, but what are we meant to be doing though? That's not a thing. That's not a thing to do.
What the fuck do you think detectives do, bro?
I love in that episode, I'm not sure if it was a genuine little bit of frustration came through, Ben, but...
It really did, and I think we cut a bunch of it too, because I got quite heated. What
are we doing here?
Because I was just like, what the fuck? How is this not clear?
How is this not clear? How laid out for you does it need to be? Anyway, my point was, because it started as very much railroad, like here's a quest, and Bardoon his quest is to get back his power, and the rest of you got like minor quests to get back the stuff that was stolen from you, and by the time you've got it back, you're kind of a cohesive team, and you get forced into quest after quest. But then you got to the Dead Frost, and we were far enough into it at that point that I was like, I'm going to introduce the possibility of sandbox in case they wanted to do that, which is why I gave you 6 different tracks to choose from. I gave you the railroad track still, but there was a choice to make of do you take the left track, the right track. And it wasn't just the illusion of choice. If you had gone to the other 3 villages, or a different combination of the 3 villages of the 6 that you chose, you would have encountered different stories. You might not have encountered Yaris Goldhorn. You might not have encountered the ice giant in the glacier. You might have got. You would have been. You would have been on the. If you'd have gone to Argos, I think it was. You would have been on the Lynch mob that went to Dirk's house, and then you'd have got there and been presented with an ethical dilemma of being like, oh,
I really wish we'd chosen
in our
that
experience, this guy was a very nice guy to us. Maybe we try and convince this irate mob that wants his blood
maybe just sees us and goes into a fit and turns into a werebear and tears us apart.
Could have been.
So it's interesting. So story-wise, I mean, obviously because I've lived it, I can't imagine a world now where we didn't bump into Yaris Goldhorn. Like that seems so integral to the story to me now.
Totally.
And
especially because of all his ties to Leophil and all that shit. Like
there were things in the other 3 towns that you didn't see either. Like in the same sort of way that if you'd have gone the other way, you'd have gone. I can't imagine as not having gone this because we didn't get the information of this. Blah blah blah. So that was like a genuine moment of sandboxy kind of thing, and then that was going to continue once you got to Scotland and then got on an airship and got back to Azarim. It was going to be like, you're back in Honeywood. What do you want to do? Like, which direction do you want to go? But at the same time, they went, oh, here's some sponsorship taken to the Feywild. And I was like, okay, I guess we're going to the Feywild for a bit. I guess we're going to the Iwilin Forest, and we'll do more of a railroady thing for a bit because it's sponsored. And yeah, so there is chance to be a little more sandboxy and try and open it up a little bit. Bury those.
It would be
tracks
interesting just to see what happens.
Yeah, it would be.
It's a unique experience for me as well to try and sandbox properly in a world that isn't entirely mine. Like, I don't have full creative control over where everything is in the world and what the history of it is and all that stuff, which if I was fully sandboxing, one of the secrets of sandboxing is trying to lay that sand before them as they're playing. They keep your players are like playing along in the sandbox, and they're getting closer and closer to the edge of the sandbox, and you're like, I haven't created this part of the world yet, so I'm going to just end the session here, and then you like have a week or 2 to like flesh out that bit, and then they turn around and go the other way. But I can't do that. I can't necessarily
have you found
do that.
it, Rob? Like DMing in a world that you don't have full control over in a pre-built world.
Thankfully, a lot of it has been Dead Frost lately, and that one was so littlely fleshed out by you guys already.
Yeah, true.
I had more. I felt like I had more control over, like, I can just say these things because they haven't thought about it. Won't be contradicting anything that they've already established about Dead Frost because it's not existent. I think when we get back to Honeywood, it'll be the most interesting part because I will have to be super aware of the geography around it and like the sort of things that you have in mind for.
And before we play, Rob often just sends me little DMs of like, what's this thing about, and what's this area, and what can I do with this person? And
the sponsored content that's happening at the moment is a great example because they went, it's an entire campaign set in the Feywild, and I had to say to Adam, do you have a Feywild? Do you even have planar cosmology? Like, do you have other planes of existence in this world or not? Like, if I take them to the Feywild, should we just make that like a magical forest instead? And that's why you're in Iwilin, which is not a different plane of existence, but it's the closest you had to the Feywild. So.
Right.
So I will consult Adam and Alan as well sometimes to be like, what do you think about this? Would it break continuity if I said this, or how long has it been since this war, or whatever? And then the good thing is we all stay super consistent with
it.
Yeah. Once we set a backstory. That's just locked in.
That is locked in.
But there is something very nice about the world of Epic NPC Man has always been very organically created by so many different ideas that come from a lot of different places.
Well, I was just going to say,
a lot of it's still there.
A lot of the time, those ideas are just improv lines
in
a
the
skit.
middle of the sketch,
Just
like
throwing,
one take,
smashing
Schmagenrog.
sounds together
It's
to
only-
create Schmagenrog.
Schmagenrog only exists because you chose that take. Like, you wouldn't have been Schmagenrog in any other take.
There were 6 other different things that Ron said that
Balgenrog.
day.
They all ended in
Balgenrog.
Rog. Yeah.
Balgenrog.
Balgenrog.
Balgenrog,
Yeah.
I remember that one. Yeah. So
I think it'll get easier in the future, though. Alan and I have started working on a bit of a lore book, basically, just to kind of consolidate a whole lot of stuff. We've used our lockdown time wisely to start doing that, basically, and we'll hand the tome over to Rob one day and be like, "There,
here you
done."
go. There it is. And then we can work together with friends of mine, publishing friends of mine, to actually turn it into a D&D campaign setting. That would be the next thing. You seen the so there's I don't know if
I
you've
could do the drawings.
you guys heard of Fool's Gold or Dingo Doodles? There's a YouTube channel, Dingo Doodles. She was an art channel to begin with, and then she made a video that was just like her illustrating just an anecdote of her D&D campaign off screen. Like, she was like, "Oh, here's a thing. Here's a thing that happened. I accidentally raised the Tarrasque, and the Tarrasque, in case you don't know, is like the world ender. It's like the Godzilla of D&D. I accidentally raised the Tarrasque by doing bad karaoke," and she does this whole story, and it was intended to be like a one-off story, and then it got super, like, it went viral and everybody loved it, and so she carried on telling the story through illustrations and stuff, and it got this huge following, and it's a fantastic story. It really is. I definitely recommend it. Her channel's called Dingo Doodles if you want to look it up. But then they've started a campaign. They've got a Kickstarter that's currently going, and I think it's reaching $2 million at the moment.
Ooh,
to make it into a
Yeah.
published campaign setting. So, there's definitely we have an equal following, I imagine. I've just seen Ben's face go blue as he looks it up.
Oh yeah, change of the light.
Someone, mine not do that. There we go. There's a little light change on
Tiny
my
little
face.
change for you.
Someone showed your
so,
neck chuck to the link, and
I'm
obviously
saying
both of us were.
I'm saying that there's precedent to a Kickstarter that's highly successful with the right sort of audience for making a campaign setting, and people would certainly be calling out for it on ours.
Yeah, 2.5 million off 12,000 backers. That's pretty good. Oh, shit.
It's pretty great, isn't it?
What's that average out to, like?
$20 each, I think. There comes Ben's
Not
maths
good.
face.
Because in my brain was like, that's like 1,000 each, and I was like, wait, no, that's not right. That's not right, Ben. That's not right.
No, that's more than $20 each. That's $200 each, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't know.
I was joking.
Oh, were you just throwing?
I was under exaggerating. Exaggerating.
I'm doing the maths now on my phone.
Ben's
I
math
want
face
to
does
know.
not-
I want to know.
It's about
It's
200.
it's a dot on 200. Man,
Yeah.
my
Hey,
maths
look
is
at that.
really good on that.
Yeah.
Damn, nice work. What was I going to say? So yeah, that's a thing that would be amazing to do at some point in the future. Actually, publish it as a proper campaign setting where
Almost
it's like
certainly, yeah.
where
Yeah, that'd be dope.
all the
I could
different,
see a
all the
lot
different
of-
areas are fleshed out. Here's Alderkeep and everything.
There
you need
is
to know
there
about
is a
Alderkeep.
lot in the world.
Sell some cards, maybe some D&D cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
D&D cards.
There is a lot in the world that has not even seen NPC Man or NPC D&D screens that we know about the world, but it's very misty at the moment. It's very, very vague. And it's kind of working on
got
that to really
misty.
solidify a few things.
It's got that fog that
Yeah.
you talked about in that skit where it's like, oh, there's an entire new continent down here.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's like that is a thing that is in the world, the continent of Southwind with the turtle people, but it's not been referenced beyond that one skit. But it is a thing, and I do have lore to back up why that's there, why the turtle people are there, when it came about, or all in Azerim terms, and then also all in Skycraft
game dev,
terms.
yeah,
in game dev terms.
Yeah, right.
Because that's a different challenge, isn't it? It works on two different levels that it is a video game. That's a good question for you guys, actually. While I've got
I have two separate sets of documents. One which is Skycraft, and one which is Azerim.
Here's a question for you: what level of making our D&D session the world that you're playing in feel like a video game are you guys comfortable with? Like, if we do have a character when we have a character death, let's be honest, when we have one of you die.
When Ben dies.
Do you want? Would you prefer we lean into the fact that, oh, remember this is a video game, and suddenly you pop back up into it, you respawn, You reskin.
It's a really tough one, and I think we will have difficulty in the game, which is why we've never really heavily leaned on video game stuff so far. Is the only one that knows it's a video game is Barradoon, and I purposefully don't play that very much at the table because it would be difficult.
Because we when I first came on board, I didn't really have a character to play. And so, because all the guys chose NPC main characters, and so we were talking about making me a PC, not an NPC.
Yeah.
And it's still kind of vague as to what the fuck Bob is, to
You're
be honest.
because correct me if
honestly,
I'm wrong. You were introduced as a player in episode 1, or am I wrong about that?
I don't
maybe.
know.
I can't remember.
In my mind, you're an NPC now. You're a rogue.
You might be confusing it with Brit's character in Avernus, because she was a PC.
She was a PC, and that wasn't she.
Yeah, right. Because I remember we talked about it at first, and it's just going to be too many layers of abstraction for me, especially because it's literally the first time I was playing D&D. Yeah, exactly. I know who I am. I'm a dude dressed up as another dude playing another dude. Like, it was just because there would be moments, especially because we'd be filming it too in the green screens. There would be moments where I was Ben playing a guy who's playing Bob. And then sometimes Bob is like playing a character, like it just got too much.
Bob tries to deceive his way into a high banquet or whatever, and he puts on a different persona.
And then there's the question of does Barradoon know that they are characters in a video game that are currently playing
that
D&D?
is currently being represented with D&D.
Exactly. It's like, how fucking aware am I right now? Yeah, and because that's the thing, like, does Bob know he's being played by Daryl or whoever the fuck my player character is, and how much does Daryl, like, on the green screen, do I have a different Daryl costume now? Like,
the way to sum all this up is I don't think it serves the story, and I don't think it serves the comedy or anything. So I've pitched jokes a couple of times at the table, saying things in the game or whatever, and it's never felt like it served anything. So I
never think about it as a video game anymore. To be honest,
it does. It does feel like it's become this own. It's just D&D, and you're playing and. And I think
it's in the world, but it's not a video game world.
I think it serves the need for stakes as well, because if you were video game characters, especially as NPCs, you just respawn. Like you've literally done skits about that, where somebody will kill Greg and he'll respawn immediately, and they'll kill him again and he'll respawn, and who the hell cares? And it will remove any stakes of him dying if he can just respawn immediately. And of course, we could get around it of being like, he can respawn at level 1 and he's lost everything, and now he has to play a different character because otherwise he isn't. Yeah,
Yeah, like that kind of thing. You could still have stakes. Like, it's a video game where you respawn as level 1, or even just fucking like if say Rowan died on that blimp and then respawned in Honeywood, and the rest of us are in the fucking Deadwood or in Dead Frost or in the Feywilds or whatever. And he's got to find us. Like, that does.
Super.
He wouldn't though.
Well, I mean, honestly, Bodger would be like, "Oh, great."
He wouldn't. He'd just be back.
He'd just be back.
And that's one of the things. That's one of the things that baffles me as well. Is that he's so dead set on getting back to Honeywood as like the thing that he wants to do, and I'm like, for what? What are you going to do when you get there? Your shop is literally derelict. Everything you own got taken away by Sir Gareth Diggory.
I need a good reason to go on an adventure. I gotta get home to fucking
to stand outside of my tent
to be in Honeywood,
to live my life,
to just be there.
I have a pressing need to be in Honeywood.
No.
It's fun. It's fun. I do enjoy. I enjoy playing. Very much so, and I enjoy all of the just the cool epic stuff that I'm in a position to use against you now that you're getting to a higher level. You're getting more badass. I love seeing like the progression of the characters as Barradoon is getting more powerful, like remembering his stuff, and he's getting more arrogant. Greg is getting more powerful, and it's really just confusing the shit out of him about everything that he can do. Bob's getting powerful against his will, almost. Like he's just unlocking things within himself that he's like, okay, me.
Bob's just along for the ride. He's just like,
Let's do it.
You're not on a train track. You're on a roller coaster. And you're just like, oh, okay. Are we going this way now? Okay.
Oh, this is a scary dark tunnel. Hey!
So on that topic to a certain extent, and before I sort of open it up to people's questions, since you guys are up to date now with what people have actually seen, and therefore you can talk about anything without spoilers, what do you think? Where's the story going? What am I alluding to? What's your own fan predictions or theories about what is happening and where the story's going?
My gut feeling is Leothal is not the BBEG. He's gonna be a mid-tier boss, and someone else is waiting in the wings. I don't know why. I don't know what gives me that thought. It's just a gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I think it's partly because I'm playing Bob, who is just so like, all right, what's going on? All right, fine, I don't know. Like, when I'm at the table, I don't really think that far ahead. You know, like, Bob's not going, oh, I wonder what's going on with this Leothal card. I bet he's not he's just like I think about it and stuff. But yeah, I don't really have any big...
What about the...
By the way, everyone
entity?
in the chat saying, look at Rob's face. Rob is playing poker right now. Goodness, he's not going to give away anything on his face.
What about the entity? Bob's entity. Verdurin. You got any ideas, theories? Hopes even.
That I've thought
maybe
about
you've got bits
obviously.
that you're like, oh man, I really hope that it turns out like
You remember the poem, well, not the poem, the saying that got said in the giant language.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Go to the castle, go to the mountain, plant a thing under the sky with the clouds.
You didn't even want to find a word that rhymes with thing. It's like clouds.
Clouds. Go to the thing, do the thing with the clouds and the mountain sky. Bada bing, bada boom, you got a thing.
Perfect. Well, when we get to the mountain cloud, you'll be perfect.
Yeah.
You'll know exactly what to say. You'll know the poem in giant to say. That's great.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, as far as Verdurin goes, I mean, I don't really know. It's obviously some dark force that just loves taking things over and spreading itself, I guess. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just trying to fix the camera
situation.
situation.
I just noticed
Oh no, we're all jumping around the place. Oh no.
Oh, there it is.
Freezed up.
There we are.
Cool. Just taking it a day at a time. Then that's fine. That's fine with me. It means...
Yeah. Like, it's because, like, Bob is very curious about it, but you drip fed him such mysterious, vague, like, just dreams about like dripping caves and shit, and then like, I don't know. It's just so weird. And then like the cloud giant giving me these fucking beans with a poem to say, and like, and he's like, all right, I guess I'll just carry on then.
I have reason to believe that one of those beans will permanently raise my health. So can I have a bean?
There's no reason not to think that.
I kind of wish I'd given him one.
That would have been another. That would have been another Bodger falling off the ship thing. There is a lot of things that those beans could do that would kill him.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the whole like voices in his head, like it's all very clearly kind of leading somewhere, and there's clearly dark forces at play and ancient whatevers, you know. I mean, who knows? Or it could be a fucking spell, I don't know. But yeah, Bob is very, very confused by it, but he's kind of just so into the violence, he doesn't care.
It's just as long as I've got something to jump into.
Yeah, he's just wanting to go for it.
One of the things I'm looking forward to with Barradoon is I don't necessarily know that Barradoon wants to be a high sorcerer when the time comes back around.
I was thinking about that the other day, actually.
He's been high sorcerer for video game world 20 years. In-game world, you know, if you're assuming that 24 hours in the real world, you know, you might have 50, 100 game days. He's been high sorcerer of hundreds of years potentially.
Yeah.
And
he's
and
he
it's
was
really exciting not to be.
Yeah, and we talked about how your call to adventure is the fact that you are finally not just a Superman anymore. You finally just got actual challenge and potential danger and stuff that you're like Barradoon as high sorcerer, level 20 sorcerer. He was able to do anything. He literally saved the universe multiple times.
Everyone in chat, this is not Adam's funky timeline. This is not Adam's funky timeline. It's 20 years since the beginning of the video game that Barradoon has been awake.
Yeah.
And
20 years
hundreds
of real world years since the video game was released. Is that what you mean?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, 20 years since the first of the video games.
The video game was released in 2001.
Yep, correct.
There you go then.
But yeah, that's something I'm really looking forward to with Barradoon, is getting to that point in the story, and I guess it'll be on the spot, or it might be a dice roll. Who knows?
Decision to make.
The decision to make, and going whether or not he wants to be high sorcerer, or he wants to pass it on, or there's something else that happens. I don't know. We'll see.
Dope. Well, that's a fun place to wrap up my chat. Let's open it up to the questions from chat. What do you guys want to ask them? Not necessarily about D&D. You can ask them whatever you want because they're here, and they're legally obligated to answer anything you want.
I just see Hiram saying, "I personally want Zaza as high sorcerer." That's just made me think I really want to meet number 14 again. I want to meet number 14 as Barradoon.
Watch this space. I have tracked every one of them that is still alive. R.I.P. Torok. I've kept a decent track of where they would be and where it makes sense that you would encounter them again. Would you ever consider taking on 14 for this campaign if like Barradoon died in a freak accident or something? Would you guys want to play?
I really enjoyed playing number 14. That was a very enjoyable character to play.
Would you play Eugene, or would Eugene just be like a filler character to be like, we'll get...
It would have to be a filler character. That'd be so hard to play Eugene.
It's so just... slow yourself, adventurer. His speed would be like 15.
Yeah. Yeah, what fucking class would it be? It'd be classic to make him like a monk or a fighter or something.
Yeah.
He gets in
that's what I've said to Rob, is if Barradoon dies and we need to fill in with Eugene briefly, he'd be a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or, like, I'd love to see him as a barbarian. He goes into a rage.
Oh, wait, no. We said it would end up being a monk, didn't you, Robin? There's some, like, drunken master thing.
Yeah. I said that about
right.
I said that about
That's
Greg,
perfect.
as we were talking about, like, if we needed to, for Alan's sanity, reduce the amount of shit that he can do as an artificer. I said I could just switch him over into being a monk and make him a drunken master, and he just accidentally is really good at fighting.
Yeah.
Who was it? Somebody had a good comment. They said, what about the Watcher? Would you consider playing the Watcher?
Possibly. The Watchers are very, purposefully, a very dry character, a very unfleshed out character. I don't think that would be as fun to play.
Right.
I mean, it could like sometimes that real dry character can be fun to play as a straight man to bounce off the insanity, because we don't really have a straight man.
Yeah.
Well,
we're all just insane.
No, yes and no. That's part of the reason I liked 14, is because number 14 was the straight man by being a robot, basically, and I played number 14 as the straight, as that comedic straight man that's so straight that stuff flies over their head.
Yeah, the kind of like what's the character from Guardians of the Galaxy? Fucking
Drax.
Drax, that style of thing,
Yeah.
What about what was I going to say? That there was a character. No, I'll come back to me. There was
another
a skit.
Of my characters.
There was a skit that I remembered that I thought that would make
the balloon guy.
Balloon guy. He's super fleshed out. Yeah, no, it was one of your
Adamus.
paladin-y type ones. Yeah, Adamus.
Adamus. Yeah, that'd be quite fun, possibly. Those are weird characters because whenever we play those, they're player characters. They're playing the game, but we play them as if we're role playing. I guess is what.
Right. Yeah. Like the
Because
person
there's
sitting
Adamus,
sitting on
there's
the
Adamus,
computer playing is also
Alandor, Rondor, and do you have one of those, Ben?
No, I played one of the magicians in the magic. But that was different. But it's almost like your player character's playing a hero character, almost like Jaina Pradmore or something from World of Warcraft or something.
Yeah.
How about you, Ben? What would your go-to be if Bob died? Would you consider Alfie, or having green screened him in all of the hair and beard?
Like with an asshole beard, not
with a beard that smells like asshole.
Like with a beard that smells like Alfie stored it in his gooch. Not particularly. Yeah, that was a nightmare. I was in that costume for 10 minutes, and that was 10 minutes too long. So if we got a better costume for Alfie, I'd love to play Alfie. I mean, Alfie's a fucking gem. If not, I don't know. I'd probably just have to make up a new character again because all my on NPC Man, I generally play the adventurer or I play the mugger. And the mugger, we talked about me playing the mugger in the first place, but you really need both of them. They're a duo. They work as a duo. Just one of them would be weird.
There'd be some massive. There would need to be some massive character development if you were to play a mugger.
Yeah, exactly. Like because he's so one-dimensional and constantly focused on mugging that would get old very quickly.
People have said the same about.
It's the same as Eugene. They're just so one-dimensional.
People said the same about Rowan being. Oh, why is he not playing Balin? It's like because can you imagine for an entire campaign? We can literally.
And people say, "Oh, but you did Balin's route." Like, yeah, that was a very meticulously scripted and crafted thing,
so that it works. It's not just
like. Can you imagine trying to organize shit in D&D with Balin? You're like, okay, Balin, here's what we're gonna do.
It would be literally like herding a fucking cat. Like,
yeah. Morning, Balin, what does that fucking mean?
Balin, come back. No, we're not fishing now. We're not fishing now, Balin. We're trying to kill the frost.
Every time he says anything, I just have the three of you roll an insight check to see if anybody can work out what he's meaning.
Exactly.
And the DC is really high.
Really high. Can you work out what he's meaning? It seems like he's angry about something.
So yeah, I think I would just have to invent another character.
Somebody
or go with Elfie.
W says, have you guys considered using one of the cast as a bad guy for a table session? Like if we got in somebody like Hamish and was like, instead of being a guy with you, plays just a fight. I guess there was a chance, there was a non-zero chance that Hamish was going to turn into a bad guy.
That was the thing. At first, I thought Hamish was a bad guy.
It was entirely. I left it up to him to decide as well, like how he felt about you towards the end. I was like, you're gonna have to go with them for the quests and stuff, but once it comes out, because there was a chance that you actually took an interest in him at any point during the 2 fucking table sessions that he was playing with you. There was a chance that one of you just asked him about himself, but you didn't. So you never learned who he was a cleric to. You never like asked him who he worshipped or anything. And so there was a chance that had you done so, he would have been like, oh, I worship Auril, and then that would have been like, what the fuck? And then it was up to him whether or not he.
That's us being D&D noobs. Specifically that question, but even that whole thing, like, because as you've noted many times, we still very much play. Ironically, because we don't think about it as a video game world, but we do play it like a video game. We like with leaving the dogs outside and stuff. We're like, right, we've arrived.
Yeah.
The dogs and shit will be taken care of. Blah blah blah. Like we assume a lot of stuff will get taken care of.
And also we assume that the quest text will be given to us. We don't need to ask for the quest text. Like we've met this guy. We'll get given all the information we need to know about him in due time. We don't need to ask it.
In video games, I like to explore, but I have I'm looking at the world, if you know what I mean. So I can if I'm walking around a tavern and I see a guy in the corner and I go and talk to him. Whereas in D&D, it's just. You have to really be picturing it in your head, I guess, and think to say, like, you have to be good at D&D and think to say, I go and look around, I go and explore, or
and
I
otherwise,
to a thing and I investigate him.
Yeah, and if you don't go and explore, so I don't get a chance to say there's a shady guy in the corner, and I really need you to meet the shady guy in the corner. And then I just say, oh, by the way, there's a shady guy in the corner. Suddenly I've put a big arrow over his head and a spotlight on him. And then you go, oh, he must be important because Rob's mentioned him. As Rowan did in the whole Locket situation. He goes, I'm going to look around for more food. And so I was like, well, I'm going to flesh out the world then. He's looking for cupboards to see if he's got jerky or anything. This guy would have something in his cupboard, wouldn't he? What would he have? A locket, I guess. So he's got a locket, sure. And then Rowan goes, this locket must be important because Rob's mentioned it. Not that it's just Rob's just making the world, realistic and fleshing things out with stuff that would be in a cupboard. But like, this is important. And so there is that difference of being like, as you say, in a video game, you can look around and go, I'm going to investigate that guy that I can see. Whereas the only way you can see him is if the DM's mentioned him.
Yeah, I also wonder if that's partly our tendency as storytellers as well. Go and introduce from the first act, goes off in the third. So if you and you don't mean to, but if you do specifically mention something, we go, oh, like unless you do specifically mention something that we're meant to pick up, and then we go, that's nothing.
But then we also get hyper fixated on things for some fucking
totally. Well, Rob's talked about this before as well. As soon as like crossing the chasm. As soon as someone introduces a tool, we're like, right, that's how we're doing it.
That's how we're doing it.
How? Like, that's what we're using.
A plan in D&D.
We have a magic rope.
A plan in D&D is always like, whoever mentions the first part of a plan, you all then start patchwork quilting together a plan from that, rather than ever going, is there a more concrete plan?
Is there a better plan?
Is there a different thing that we can do for this plan, right from the beginning?
Exactly.
So, while we're talking about Hamish being the bad guy and other cast members being the bad guy, we're on the topic of cast members. Who's like on your wish list? Who would you most like to have at the table as a guest?
I want to get Byron in.
Byron would be fantastic.
He would be
fucking funny.
Chaotic, amazing energy. And
before D&D Logic, the four of the cast had never played D&D before, so I got them round to my house. It wasn't recorded. I just walked them through an improvised game of D&D. You start in a tavern, and there's a shady guy in the corner, and he was going to be like a quest giver. So as soon as I mention shady guy in the corner, Phoenix says I shoot him with an arrow, and I was like, all right, roll for it. And she rolled. She got a nat 1, and it went over his head and into a barrel of ale, and the ale spilled on the floor. And then Byron, who had decided he was the tavern owner, slipped on the ale and broke his ankle and fell down the cellar steps, and it just was absolute fucking craziness. But Byron was. They were all very fun. They were all very fun to play with. But
Phoenix would be great too.
As soon as I'd played that, I was like, man, Byron would be good to have at the table.
I want to get Britt back as well, but because we've had her in before, it seems like less priority.
Yeah, like we've got a lot of people we have access to, and if we have them for 2 table sessions each, like we did Hamish, that's a lot of episodes each.
Yeah, it is, man. Yeah, I mean, I think you could easily bring Britt back. I mean, Avernus was fucking ages ago.
Oh, most certainly.
These are people we know, though. I asked you your wish list. Who's celebrities and everything. We've got some sway in the D&D world. You'd love to have Donald Trump at the table? Sweet.
Why, Ben?
We're gonna have to talk about some things.
Can you fucking imagine?
He's just sitting there.
What are we doing here?
What are we doing?
Jesus.
I'm the best at D&D.
Actual answers.
Ask anyone. I roll all the best dice.
Ask anyone. I'm the best at D&D.
I roll all the best dice.
Yeah.
Oh,
God, the biggest dice.
The biggest dice.
All the people that are coming to mind are just literally people who I'd like to act with, like Ian McKellen. God, imagine playing D&D with Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
You shall not pass.
If they don't play D&D, it would just be fucking painful.
Well, are we also assuming that they're into it?
Yeah, I assume.
They're assuming that they're into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea who I would pick.
Going back to Taskmaster, fucking Greg Davies would have such great chaotic energy. Christ, that would be amazing.
Noel Fielding?
Like
someone like Noel Fielding.
I tell you, amazing. Thinking of Taskmaster, Rod Gilbert. Did you see the episode, the series with him in it? The season with Rod Gilbert? He is such an out-of-the-box thinker. All of the tasks, every one of them, he was like, how can I get around this task? He would be fantastic for D&D because he would be presented with a chasm problem and it'd be like, how do we get across this? And he'd come up with something just nobody had thought of.
Some of the shit he comes up with, like the episode where he ties Alex to the chair first.
Yeah.
And then ties
The
himself
longest
up.
to get untied, so he's like, all right, untied by Alex. It says, yeah. Great stuff.
Bob
How...
image in the chat. Bob Mortar would be fucking.
Oh God, Bob Mortimer. Yes, that's my answer. That is my answer. Bob Mortimer. Yeah.
I
Honestly, any good improv comedian would be fucking genius.
Yeah, for sure.
I have Would I Lie to You clips of Bob Mortimer like bookmarked because I just need to go back and watch them from time to time.
Yeah, I've watched. There's a like I think it's 53 minutes, maybe the best of Bob Mortimer on Would I Lie to You. I've watched that a lot of times. Also, Martin Short, I would love to do D&D with. Actually.
Speaking of Bob, Lachlan asks, how was the character of Bob chosen? Why did you choose Rogue? Why did you choose Elf? What made you pick Bob?
A big part of it was trying to choose something that was different than the other three already.
Mm-hmm. We've got 3 humans already.
Greg and Barradoon. They were humans. You know, we had a barbarian, we had an artificer, or whatever the fuck that is, and we had a sorcerer. So I was like, we got magic covered, we got brute strength covered, we got whatever covered.
Whatever Greg is.
Yeah, whatever Greg is. So I'll go like sneaky guy.
I mean, the stereotypical party, right from like early days of D&D and everything, like is the fighter, the fighting damage dealing tank. There's the wizard spellcasting mage. There's the healer, and there's the rogue thief assassin. Yeah, the sneaky one. So if you consider Greg to be the healer, then you are then the one that was missing out of the stereotype.
Do we consider Greg to be the healer though?
He's the only one with healing magic, so in that sense. So yeah.
It's kind of like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, it doesn't make a sound.
If a healer
has the spells but never use them, is he still a healer?
What would each of you like to? What's a class that you would like to explore? I know that you've said previously, Adam, that you when you're playing video games, you kind of like the damage dealing tanky kind of barbarian type.
Yeah, right? Playing a fighter or a barbarian and really getting into the tank aspect of it would be good fun. I mean, as you say, that's how I often play. Like that's my main in World of Warcraft is a tank, and I do. As much as I enjoy the spells and the versatility I have from the spells with Barradoon, I do sometimes feel a little bit pithy at the back, just kind of being pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, right.
Whereas to get in there with a fucking great axe and go at it, like, good fun.
Yeah, I feel quite just pithy being dead on the ground.
Yeah.
I reckon, actually, probably what you should do, Ben, is just not die. Just don't.
Okay.
Don't do that.
You could try
Interesting.
that.
Interesting.
Like, don't go below 0 hit points because like
if you
can
do,
fight if you're
look,
above.
I've got my way of playing D&D, and you've got your way of playing D&D. All right. I'd like to play my D&D sub-zero.
I like to live dangerously. Yeah. I like to live in negative numbers. What would you if you rolled a new character for whatever reason? What do you reckon you'd enjoy? What class? What kind of character?
I don't know. I quite like the idea of fighter or monk.
Kicking
but it's weird because
bringing your jiu-jitsu into it, grappler.
Yeah, totally. That would be really fun.
Somebody who specializes in grappling. There's very good grappling builds in D&D as well. There's things you can take that allow you to grant advantage to anybody else in the fight if you're grappling somebody, and there's things that you can take that if you're grappling you have advantage to attack them, and there's all sorts of cool builds you can do with it.
I think I've mentioned this to you before, Rob. I did a whole lot of research into. I'm pretty sure it was homebrewed to some degree, or maybe it was like a expansion or something. But playing a necromancer, a proper necromancer, would be great fun.
Yeah, I've always wanted to play a necromancer, especially one that's not necessarily evil. Like I like the idea of evil characters. I always enjoy playing evil, but like a necromancer who just genuinely believes like the world's problems could be solved if we just put menial tasks to zombies and skeletons.
Yeah, right.
Their bodies aren't being used anymore. Why don't we use them to plough the fields, and then you can pursue art. Yeah. Kit says, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that it's interesting trying to choose a class, because the part of D&D that does kind of interest me the most in some ways is the kind of RPG, the role-playing elements, more than the combat. But I feel like the class you pick affects, well, the way we've played it so far anyway, the class affects the combat far more. what I want to get better at is using the class outside of combat more.
Yeah, and to be fair, that's a downfall of D&D. D&D is based, its history comes from a war game, and
Yeah, right.
and they claim that 5th edition D&D is on 3 pillars: combat, exploration, and social interaction. But that combat pillar is much thicker than the other two.
That may come down a little bit to your character build, though. Like I have purposefully made myself weaker in combat to take spells that make the storytelling more interesting, like Major Image. Although I have used it in combat, I 100% chose that because it was going to be best used in storytelling. And
I've got a bunch of those too as well. Like I've got so many spells that I've never fucking used at the table. That's part of what I'm saying.
I love that you used Toll the Dead like for the first time in that fight with the giant, and you'd had it since like level 3.
I was so close to saying, like, I heard you say Toll the Dead, and like you can't quite tell in the video footage, but I kind of like lean forward and look over at Ben's card and then sit back, because in my mind I'm going,
not sure that necrotic
he's undead, isn't he?
Yeah,
I'm like, I should say something. No, it's not my place to say anything. Let's just see if this doesn't work.
Cold damage. Nope, that didn't do it. He's an ice giant.
Yeah. Because I have disguise self, I have silent image, I have a bunch of spells that I chose for those more role playing things. I was like, I'm gonna be a sneaky rogue. I'll like disguise my way into places and like operate in the shadows. And I mean, yeah, like part of it is I haven't felt the opportunity to do that. But again, this is also what I was getting at earlier. I don't create enough of my own opportunities in D&D because I'm not used to having to think that way in video games.
Yeah. In that sense of like sneaking into places and stuff, actor is a very good feat to take as a rogue.
Yeah. Or as an artificer.
Or as an artificer that you use to pretend to be butterflies and monkeys. Kit says, did
being an actor is one of my favorite things in the whole world.
The fact that it's like the first one on the list.
Going to that theatre show where he played all the characters.
Him describing the theatre group where they meet up every Tuesday and Thursday, and he was kind of feeling really guilty because he was really developing close connections. But he knows he's going to be leaving. Going to be here for the performance.
Which I have taken note of, and he wasn't there, and he's let them down. And that theatre group will at some point come back in, and they'll be pissed with him.
So good, I love it.
Kit says, Ben, did you find any challenges or find it intimidating at all to enter into the campaign with a completely new character, whereas the other three were playing existing characters who'd already played a campaign together? We'd already done the Avernus, we'd already played these characters, they already knew the characters and how D&D works. This was your first game and your first character playing Bob. Was it what was that like?
Nah, not really. Like I wasn't intimidated as such because I've been through some shit as an actor. Like I've done some shit, man, on stage in front of people and stuff. So I'm pretty used to that kind of performing under pressure stuff. And like I was very, very unsure of the D&D rules, but I kind of knew that would be part of the charm of it in a way as well. And I knew ultimately I was like, if I don't know, I just turn to Rob and go, well, I don't know. What do I do?
How does it work? Just so much.
And I played enough.
There was so much, and slightly less these days, but there was so much at the beginning of me being like, what's your armor class? And you're like, yep. And you just stay looking at me, just being like, yep.
Yes, I do. Correct. I have armor. Yep. What else do you want to know?
What number is your DC? My
but
DC.
Yeah, I played enough games that, like, there's a lot of crossover between D&D and games, the way, like, role-playing games, obviously. And like I had this when we played that one-shot D&D game as well in the little break, because before the game all the other people were far more experienced in D&D than me, and said they had all these hundreds of character sheets and stuff. I was like, yeah, this is my third character ever. Yeah, but of course I've played many characters as an actor. And so I'm very used, like, that whole side of things, the playing the new character. I mean, that's my job, like that's my life, so I'm totally used to that. And the D&D was foreign, but not so foreign that I'm like, I don't know at all what I'm doing. At least I know a little bit. I just didn't know the exact mechanics of it or whatever.
Myth asks, which is the mystery you're most looking forward to finding out the reasons for? Verdurin, Leothil, the disappearance of Kelethak, or your tokens in front of you, Bob?
I'm actually more interested in Kelethak because that's a plot seed that I had put in to the Epic NPC Man world a long time ago, and I didn't know the answer. I didn't know the answer to it, and Rob presumably made the answer up to it, and I'm looking forward to finding out what it is.
For me it's Verdurin for obvious reasons.
trying to work out what the hell it is that's going on for you.
What's going on in here? That's what I want to know.
Adina asks a really good question. Could we see Bob turn up in an Epic NPC Man skit if the right situation presented itself? Now that he is canon to the world, like, would we ever
it's
see
strange because Ben's outfit is the same as the generic adventurer.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't obviously be Bob at first.
Well, I guess as soon as I open my mouth,
the accent, yeah.
Like, I guess we could, but it's the kind of thing where, and who knows what the future holds with Viva in any regard. But you know, if the D&D channel really takes off, then it would be justified. But right now, and don't get me wrong, the D&D channel is obviously doing very well, and we all enjoy it, and blah blah blah. But it's still a fraction of the main channel.
Yeah.
And so there's not much. Like, there wouldn't be enough return on investment basically to create a skit about Bob, but Bob could be like an Easter egg in a skit, if that makes sense. I think.
And unless of course Bob was the perfect character to tell a skit that didn't necessarily hinge on the D&D character.
Yeah, it would have to be a standalone skit that just gives you a little bit extra if you happen to know who Bob is, but it still works.
Exactly, because NPC Man, the series, is about video games, and Bob is very much a D&D character at this point.
Yeah,
so
correct.
Speaking of crossovers, though, Dottie Moose asks, would you consider a D&D Logic crossover or play as or meet Crunch and Damocos?
Well, you want to specifically keep them separate, don't you?
Correct. Yeah, I would. I want to keep them separate things because they are serving different things. One is talking about.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, one is. I don't want them to. For the first part, I don't want to have to worry about consistency over lore, and I don't want to have the D&D logic set in the world of Epic NPC Man and have lore implications and things about that, and that restrict me as a writer.
Weird and incestuous.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll do like a Marvel DC crossover.
Yeah, just for fun, for like a one shot, maybe like for a Patreon high enough levels, just like a big event of, I don't know, maybe it's two
characters.
Maybe it's a stretch goal of a Kickstarter or something to be like, oh, we'll film and we'll shoot and release a 3-hour episode where you guys are just playing as the D&D Logic characters or something, and there's like nine players around the table with Alan having to DM it, and I would be playing as Aaron as the fighter. Can you imagine? That's actually a question. What would you guys be keen to do, like a one shot where you guys actually DM something for for the right sort of event?
I genuinely think I would be.
And
I don't know.
And the other 5 of us play in your campaign.
I think it would be fun to create a little sandbox and a world, and I'd obviously there'd be a lot of learning to go on first.
Yeah, of course.
And there would also be a lot of learning in that very first game about, oh, okay, I didn't prepare enough here, or I over prepared here.
The over preparing is a huge thing when I first started, and when a lot of DMs first start, nervous DMs, they'll way over prepare. I had an entire town with like 50 NPCs all fleshed out. and I had like descriptions for everyone in that town and their likes and wants and fears and things, just in case they talk to them, so that I know how to so that I knew how to talk. And now it's like, oh, that's never important. They talked to 2 of them. And I spent more time like looking them up and being like, oh, they speak to the guard.
With us.
And now I'm like, okay, yeah, I need every NPC. There are NPCs that I did flesh out specifically for you guys that you never talked to, and instead went to like the receptionist of some bumfuck town in the middle of and asked her about who she was. And, so you can over prepare for sure. But as they say, like any preparation you do, even if your players don't go to that town, you can just take that town and put it in front of them over here instead.
Yeah,
that is something that I do find fascinating about D&D, as opposed to video games, which are a very set, literally coded and programmed thing. D&D is it's I almost think about it like the shifting fog, you know, like outside of your field of vision, anything exists.
Yeah.
You know, like everything exists in a superposition, and it's up to the GM as to what happens.
When you finally uncover the fog, then the GM can say like, oh, okay, now this is solidified on your map as existing there.
Yeah. But even once locations are there, you don't know what's happening there.
Yeah.
Like, and it can
until you
it's
go
so
there and find out for yourself.
Fluid.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that can be a boon or a curse as well. Like,
it depends on the mind of the person playing. Like, it can be really freeing if you're the type that can just improvise that stuff. You can be like, I don't need to worry about having enough time to do prep because they're not going to go to everywhere on the map, and I only need to improvise one town when they get there. Or it can be really crippling by being like, I can't start my first session, my first campaign. Oh, I'm going to put it off because I'm not ready to start yet because I haven't got the idea of what's on this continent over here, just in case they ever.
But that's the same as anything. Like, I feel like you learn by doing, and that you just need to get into it and learn on the go.
All right, so I'm aware of the time. It's getting late, and I don't want to keep you guys up all night. So I'll ask this one last question from W. A very good question. Bob, Ben, how would you feel about Verdurin potentially turning Bob evil? If the story goes that way, that like it's a corrupting force and turns Bob evil.
That's something that I've totally thought about as well. Is that it may be a corrupt, like, again, it's like how much can you really corrupt Bob?
He's
fucking corrupted already.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he jumps inside of his friends and explodes them from the inside out. I guess that's the line he's crossing now. Oh, right.
In terms of like
people he's fond of too.
in terms of the evil council that are sitting around being like, who can we corrupt to our side? Yeah, exactly. They look across at Bob and they're like, low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically here. He's already in the queue.
he's like standing outside already.
Oh, you want me to be evil?
Yeah.
Oi.
I think that would be a fun thing to do. There's an element of like taking away player agency that a lot of players wouldn't enjoy. They've been like, no, I didn't want my character going this way. You're making me do things that I don't want.
Well, stop licking black oil, Ben. Fucking hell.
That's basically it. There are consequences.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because it could be a really strange thing to, especially if I take this character to level 20 and then you take him off my hands essentially, and he becomes evil
NPC.
Like,
that would be pretty funny. Like, you get all the way to like level 20 in 5 years' time, whenever we finally get there, because it's taken a year and a half for us to get you to level 7.
There have been a couple of lockdowns, to be fair. But there is a part of me that would really enjoy a evil turn for Bob, and I think it would be because ultimately, just like when I'm an actor, I just want to do something that's satisfying in a narrative sense, you know, like I don't care whether my character's evil or good or whatever. I want a good character.
If it tells a really juicy story that you're like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Yeah, I want a character that's fun to play or satisfying to play and is part of a good story and all that.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. So if that means Bob goes evil because of the fucking voices in his head constantly going, drink, murder, kill. I mean, yeah, that makes fucking sense.
And it'll be a good story.
Yeah, exactly.
Image says maybe they'll go to Darkwood and meet their evil counterparts, and Bob is just exactly the same, or better.
All right, Bob.
Bob in Darkwood's like, oh, lovely to meet you. How you doing, mate?
Yeah.
It's good
hello, Robert.
Hello, Robert.
Hello, Bartholomew. Oh, fucking.
Fucking this guy.
Oh,
how goes the place? Yeah. All right, this has been a blast. Thank you very much.
He's Bob backwards.
Bob.
Bob.
He's Blade
Bartholomew of Darkwood. All right, this was a blast. Thank you very much for joining me, everybody. One last time, in case people weren't here at the beginning or they whatever. Where can people find you? What would you like to plug? We'll go Ben first.
You can find me here on Twitch, as I'm sure you all know, or on Instagram at ben.van.leer, or you can check out my merch at benvanleer.threadless.com.
Merch stores. He's wearing some.
Oh, look at that.
He's a model.
Oh, look at that.
That's not a model face. He's a model face.
Oh.
Yeah, no. Only the Rangers may pass. Yeah, no, mate. Why do you think we're here?
Oh god, that's fucking horrible, Ben. Stop it.
And hold it while we introduce Adam and just the entire way through. Adam, where can people find you? What do you want to plug?
You can find me on Instagram at Adam King Film. Otherwise, you can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/TheWatcher.
What are you streaming at the moment?
I'm streaming a little-known game called New World, which I've just found out about, and I don't know if I'm into it yet. Maybe I'll.
Just testing it out. How many hours of testing have you done now?
Let's have a look at it. I think it's getting up there. I don't think it's quite 200, but
what are you streaming at the moment, Ben? You stream your artwork a lot, but you're playing video games?
Yeah, I've been streaming artwork a lot recently. I got into a real, just managing my mental health in lockdown pretty much.
Oh, by the way, speaking of which, let's all compare lockdown hair before we go, because I see that yours is very long and curly afro there.
Mine,
are we gonna do this?
I had quite a short cut just before lockdown, so mine's actually not too bad at the moment.
Ben's basically got an afro.
Can you get it into your mouth?
Look at that. I can just about. Yeah, I can bring it right down. Oh, if I go to the side of my nose, I can get it in my mouth. If I go over my nose, it can just touch.
Yeah, I can't get down to my mouth yet. I don't think. No, I'm right at my nose. So mine isn't actually that long. It's just a lot of body.
He's got like it's so fluffy.
Yeah,
it's like a teddy bear. All right, and on that note, I will take us over to the ending soon screen and stick around for the raid, everybody. And I'll see you the same time next week. Bye.